Welcome to Lead Different.
Welcome back to the Lead Different podcast. Today's conversation is one you don't just listen to, you feel it. Our guest brings leadership through presence, humility, and lived experience, and his energy comes straight through the microphone. Today, I'm joined by Father Peter Pomposello, a priest, leader, and servant whose work goes far beyond the walls of the church. Father Peter leads with faith, compassion, and a deep commitment to people. And in this conversation, he shares powerful insights on leadership, service, and what it really means to show up for others. If you've ever wondered what leadership looks like when it's rooted in purpose rather than position, this episode is going to resonate. There are moments here that invite reflection, not because you're being told what to do, but because something simply lands. And around here at Why Not Leadership, we believe that growth often begins with a simple question: why not? So as you listen, notice what stands out, what challenges you, and what you can't unsee once you hear it. This is a powerful conversation. Let's dive in.
Why not leadership? Why not lead different?
Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. I am so excited today to talk with Father Peter Pomposello. I'm not going to give him a big introduction because a lot of this stuff is going to come out, but I want to tell you he is a priest. He is a chaplain in the United States Army, currently stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And, one of the reasons he's on the show is because I saw him do an interview with the Beatitudes with my good friend, Jeff Scheffelbein, and he did such a great job in that interview, not only just going with the flow with a bunch of crazy guys, but also giving us some great wisdom on leadership and the work that he does. And I wanted to get him on the Lead Different podcast. One of the reasons, that I think the most important reason, is he had one of the toughest jobs in the Army prior to the job he's in right now. He was a recruiter for the U.S. Army Chaplain Corps. So, and I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about those challenges, but imagine you're a recruiter, and those of you who are recruiting for executive jobs, I get that your job is hard. Hey, my fellow Catholic friends and priests who are also priests, if you're a vocations director, I bet you think it's tough recruiting people into the priesthood. Well, imagine adding on top of the fact that you're recruiting them into the priesthood, you're also recruiting them into the United States Army. So I definitely want to talk about some of those challenges. But Father Peter, welcome to the show.
Dan, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. Thank you for making time. I know you've got to be very busy. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in North Carolina. And you took some time this morning to be with us to share some leadership lessons with our crew. We're the Lead Different podcast, and we want to be the #1 Catholic business leadership podcast in the world. And the way we're going to do that is by bringing people like you on to talk about leadership at all the different levels. Plus, we're bringing a spiritual component in today. So thank you for being on.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I look forward to chatting with you.
So tell me, Father Peter, what are you excited about right now? It's 2026, New Year. Any New Year's resolutions? Any new things you're trying there in North Carolina?
The first thing that comes to mind is that I've been in this garrison assignment now at Fort Bragg for about a year, a little more than a year, and I'm seeing the fruit of all of the marriage preparation that I'm doing for all these young soldiers, with their young brides, and they're. Talk about leadership. They're leading themselves along with their bride to become holy families, to be men of God. It's so inspiring. I can't tell you. And a lot of them are let's just say that, they got married and maybe they didn't get married in church right away. So
Right.
they're what we call convalidating their marriage. They're bringing
Absolutely.
this civil union into the church to have it blessed so that it can become a sacrament. And I'm so inspired by them because
Yeah.
they get it. They get it. They say, you know what, God offers me something more, and I want this grace to be able to lead my wife and my children to Jesus.
Yes. It's funny you talk about that. We were talking, my daughter is 14 years old. And so we were talking about the challenges of school, right? We talk about leading our kids. We're worried. Parents are always worried about grades. They're worried about sports, and they're worried about music. And you know what my daughter and I were talking about, what we need to worry about? Your soul, and your soul. Because I think you mentioned it. Our number one responsibility as parents, our number one responsibility as husbands, to lead our families into heaven. What is it that we're going to do to get them to heaven? You've got a tough job because you're meeting people, and Jeff Scheffelbein and I were having a conversation about being prepared to go to heaven, right? And so you've got to get those soldiers in order for them to be able to just say, you know what, whatever happens, happens. If you're in a combat situation, if your soul is ready, you're not afraid, right?
Correct.
Because you're going to a better place. I shared this story of a 90-year-old woman got held up by a kid. She puts her groceries in her car, and a young man gets in the car and with a gun and says, "Give me all your money." And she says to him, "No, I'm not going to give you all my money." He's like, "What do you mean? I'm going to shoot you." And she says to him, she turns to him and says, "Hey, look, if you shoot me, I'm going to go to heaven. So I'm okay with that, but you're going to go to hell. Not only that, before you go to hell, you're going to go to jail. Why would you want to go to jail and go to hell for $10? That's all I got on me." And she talked to him for about half an hour. She said by the end of that half hour, he was crying. She hugged him and gave him the $10 and said, "Don't go do that again." Who knows what kind of difference that made? But you're having those conversations before deployments all the time, probably with young soldiers. What's the most important thing they're asking for when they come to you to prepare for a deployment, and the fact that they may not return?
I think one of the most important things they ask for is they lean forward on the deployment and they're concerned. They say, "Hey, Padre, how am I going to get to the sacraments while I'm gone?" Mm-hmm. And I try to advise them, say, "Listen, you got to lean into your own chaplain, whether he's Catholic priest or not. Right. Lean into your own chaplain and identify yourself, self-identify, and say, 'Hey, I'm Catholic. I want to receive the sacraments as frequently as I can. I'm going to be gone for 6, 9, 15 months. So they can coordinate with their chaplain, their own chaplain, whether he's a priest or not, so that he can make sure that he gets them the religious support that they need. And then in the absence of a priest, I tell them all, Sunday is a holy day of obligation, whether you go to mass or not. And you need to gather together. You need to get small groups together to pray the rosary together. That's an excellent, read the readings for Sunday and pray the rosary. Keep Sunday holy, and you got to find each other so you can encourage each other to holiness outside of the sacraments, in the absence of the sacraments.
Right. So there's no excuse, right? I remember during COVID, we didn't have communion, right? We were watching mass on TV, and we called it, what is sacramental? No. When you take communion without taking communion.
Spiritual communion.
Spiritual communion. We did a lot of that, right? So you can still do that. You can listen. It's a great app that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops puts out. You can read the readings you can even listen to a reflection. So you get all that stuff, man. Yeah, that's got to be hard. I remember, somebody was talking about having that conversation. I remember being, because I joined the military, I was 18. So I joined as an enlisted, did a few years as an enlisted, and then joined the ROTC and became commissioned. And I remember, what was it that Desert Storm was happening around the time that I joined, and having to have pre-deployment conversations with my parents. And preparing, hey, life insurance, all this stuff that could happen if I don't come back. What about these? Go ahead.
From 17, I was deployed a bunch of times from 17 to 20, and it was very intentional. They used me to go to theater to give everybody an experience of Christmas for a couple of months, and then I'd come back, I'd do laundry, and I'd refit, and then I'd go back out for Easter. And the reason why I would go and come back, it was sustainable. So over a period of 3 years, I was gone Christmas, Easter, Christmas, Easter, Christmas, and it was great. It really served the Army in an efficient way. Now, here's the heartbreak story. I'm going on short, rotations, and some of those soldiers are out there 6, 9, 15 months.
Right.
I would see them, and true story. I saw a group at Easter time. I saw them at Easter again. Oh, wow. Oh, you're a Catholic priest? Wow. You're the first Catholic priest. We've been here for like 4 months. We haven't seen a Catholic priest. I'm like, oh, no, yeah, tell everybody, let's go. We'll say mass. I'll hear confessions. So we do all of that. I say goodbye to them. That's Easter. Easter goes all the way now to December, and I go back out for Christmas. And I bet you can guess what's going to happen. I go to the similar places, and these same soldiers are in the same place. And their eyes light up, and they're like, Padre, you're back. You're still out here. And it just broke my heart because I knew what they were going to tell me. I said, have you guys had mass? He goes, no, not since you were here. I'm like, thanks. I'm glad you're here. So like I was the only game in town, and it's really, it's really sad, which shows the shortage. It shows the critical need that we have for priests in the military, in the Army.
Well, tell us about that challenge. That's a particular challenge. I want to get into. Okay, you're not only recruiting him into a life and death job, and I guess I think it's definitely life and death to be a priest, but you're recruiting him into the Army. You work with them as they're discerning. They're probably for the first time in their life, young men stepping into moments of crisis, fear, and uncertainty. What does leadership look like for them in that environment?
They need to, leadership begins with the self, right? Self-control. I mean, that's where leadership begins. That we have to control our own passions, our own desires. We have to govern our own imagination to make sure that we direct it so that we are led in good directions. We use our imagination for so many different things, for good things, for planning, for, making a plan, entertainment. We use our imagination. We use it for discussion and conversation. And we have to govern our imagination and lead it in the right direction with our will. With God's grace, we have to will our imagination in the right direction. And I think for every young man out there, you have sovereignty over yourself to self-govern your own thoughts, your own actions, take accountability for them. So now you have something to give. Now, when a man's in full possession of his faculties in that way, he can be a man of integrity that he's called to be, to lead and to govern others in holiness. And whether it's as a single man and just a member of a fire team, or a young man who maybe is discerning a call to the priesthood, it's that self-governance that it all begins there. And that's the challenge until we're dead. We're all gonna, that never ends. Self-governance never ends. You may become a parish priest, you may become the Pope, but self-governance is always in play.
Man, I'm glad you brought up self-governance, because one of the things that we deal with at Why Not Leadership, as we work with corporate leaders, as we work with leaders in different areas, we work in the educational sector. One of the things one of the bases of what we do is talk about self-awareness, the importance of understanding yourself before you can lead. And you go back to Mark 8:36, he says, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world yet loses his own soul? Yeah. What are you doing if you're not looking after your own soul? What good is it to know all things if you do not know yourself? And so, why chase material success, pleasure, status, or control at the cost of integrity, peace, or spiritual connection? What do you see in terms of, the value of self-awareness?
Well, self-awareness, the value of self-awareness comes from discerning God's will for you. I often tell young men, don't worry about what you want to do. Don't worry about trying to figure out what you think you want to be when you grow up. Bring that to the Lord. Ask the Blessed Mother. Ask our Father, St. Joseph, to lead you to discern what does God want from you, because that's the question that needs to be answered. Because then you're going to be completely happy and content pursuing God's will for you, rather than wondering why, like, I'm doing this, but I'm not exactly happy doing this. I don't know if I should be doing this. I don't know if I should be doing that. Have you asked God what you should be doing? If you ask God first, then he'll lead you where you belong.
Oh, I really like that. So question 2, right? So it's not what I want. It's what does he want? A lot of people,
100%.
So in prayer, people always talk about, I pray and pray and I don't get an answer. Here's the thing that I have learned, and I'm trying to be much better at it. Prayer time should be listening time. How important is it to just sit and listen?
Yes.
And how hard,
Yeah.
just reading or listening to a podcast series on the importance of silence, of being bored, and just sitting and listening, because that's the hardest part for me. I'd rather listen to a podcast, be reading something, but to just sit and listen. What is he trying to tell you? After you've said your prayers, just sit and listen for 5 minutes of quiet. I was going to ask you, as you were recruiting priests into, when you're guiding someone that's discerning military chaplaincy, and you recruit all faiths, I'm sure.
Well,
what inner signals?
I was specialized I was lucky because I was specialized just to focus on Catholic priests, because I was doing this top down, bottom up strategy where first of all, no one's going to become a Catholic priest in the military unless their bishop says so.
Right.
So I would recruit bishops going up to their office and asking them, hey, this is a need for the Army. Let me give you a little attraction. Maybe that's something in it for you as a bishop, which kind of like, they're like, what am I getting out of sending some guy to the military? But we have some excellent incentives. Foreign-born priests who are here on green cards, if they have a green card, they can join the Army as a path to citizenship. What a noble path to citizenship, and it expedites their citizenship. And that's a great reward from a bishop to say he has a foreign-born priest with a green card, and he wants the guy to become incarnated and become a part of his diocese. It's a great incentive. So like that, I would talk to the bishops first. Now, some bishops, in fairness, they were like, hey, Padre, thanks. I already gave it the office. I got a couple of guys in, and I would tell them, yeah, I understand. And then I wouldn't necessarily as actively recruit his presbyterate the way I would recruit the presbyterate of a bishop one bishop I had once tell me, I pitched everything I could to him. And can you imagine how happy I was when he stopped, he looked at me and he said, Father, help me find the right guy to send into the Army. Like, what more can I ask for? And got a guy in the Army.
So you got access to the guys. That's really,
Exactly.
all you're asking, all I'm saying is give me a chance, right?
Right.
So you got that opportunity.
And I want to commend all the bishops out there in the United States for their generosity. It's not an easy ask. I mean, I show up, a recruiter, when I was recruiting, or the next recruiter that's out there looking for priests for the military, for the Army, Navy, the Air Force. Right. They're saying, okay, can you give me a priest who's young, in shape, and wants to serve his country? Like, this guy's probably a go-getter, and you're going to take him out of my diocese? Like, I need the guy to help me run a parish, and you're going to take him away from me? So it's very generous of them to make the sacrifice and to trust in God's providence to provide for their diocese while they sacrifice a vocation for the good of the archdiocese for the military services.
Yeah, would that we had the problem that St. John Neumann had. I was at Mass, and Father Tremblay, one of our pastors here, was giving the homily, and he said, Father Neumann couldn't get ordained because his archbishop said we have too many priests. So he literally had to go shop around and find another archdiocese that would ordain him. That's definitely not the problem that we have right now. We have a shortage of priests everywhere. In our archdiocese, we're blessed with a lot of Nigerian priests who come over from Nigeria, and so they're taking a lot. And New Mexico, it's a big state, a lot of miles between parishes. We've got young priests in small towns with like 100 people, and that's their social life. And so they're it's challenging, and they're covering 4 or 5 different parishes in different locations. So not a great recruiting tool, right? But you had the double. So you're now I'm seeing the challenge, right? You not only had to recruit the bishop You had to recruit the archbishop to say, okay, let me give you access to some of my guys. And then you went and found his best, youngest, most in shape, probably most ready to go take over a parish guys and say, hey, you want to be in the army? And then if they said yes, he was gonna lose them for how many years?
Well, a minimum of 60 months, because the Army's making an investment in leadership training.
Right.
And if, like, you can't just say, oh, I don't like this and go home. It's like, hey, you got to commit for 60 months. And then, okay, let's, we'll go from there. You can appreciate this as a veteran, though. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to share something with you that it just, it was so trying for me as a recruiter, because I would meet veteran seminarians and veteran priests.
Right.
And I'd say, you are the fit. You're the guy I'm looking for. You get it. You understand the culture of the military. You're going to be able to do great ministry. And oh my gosh, it was such a heartbreak to hear them go, I don't want to go back. I'm like, I don't care if you want to go back. We need you.
Listen, that's so funny.
It was so frustrating. It really was, because. And I'd tell them, it's like, listen, you don't have to come back forever. You have to do 20 years. Give us 60 months. Just think of it as a parish assignment. Your bishop's going to send you to any parish in his diocese. He might send you to a parish you don't like, a parish you like. It doesn't matter. Just look at it as another assignment. Bite the bullet for 60 months. And it's a great thing for God and country. Not doing it, Padre. Thanks. Gave it the office. I'm like, used to break my heart.
And I think
you guys know who you are.
Yeah, we know who you are. We're watching you. And you know what? They're probably doing great work, and they're really excited about what they're doing. And you have to discern. And that's the tough part about discernment. Is St. Ignatius taught us, you never make decisions. What is it? Never make decisions in desolation, right?
Always in consolation.
And always in consolation. So you not only have to find them, but you have to find them when they were in consolation, and then get them to make good decisions.
And I don't want to, just to end this, I don't want to oversimplify it, because it's a calling thing too. If they're not really called to it, I can even speak for myself. When I first joined seminary, I was still in uniform. I was in the reserves and I was still in uniform, but I needed a break from the uniform too. I was like, you know what? I don't need to bring all of this into the seminary. I need to be formed. And that's, it's just the reality that it goes back to, we got to do what God wants. It's not necessarily what we want, not necessarily what your recruiter sees as a great fit. Oh, you'd be great. Come on. It's like, what does God want from them?
So tell us, this would probably be a good time. Let's give some background. We found out, we went to advanced camp as ROTC cadets, only 1 year apart. So tell us about your military start. Where did you start? You were in ROTC, got commissioned. Yeah. Where were you?
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about your story.
So I was in Brooklyn Polytechnic University, and I wanted to join the Army. I wanted to be an infantry officer. I wanted to graduate and go in the Army on active duty. So I kind of jumped in with both feet at ROTC. I received a scholarship. I enjoyed my time and my training there. But then the first Gulf War ended, and they were downsizing, and there was no opportunity to go on active duty by the time I commissioned and graduated in 91.
Right.
So I shrugged my shoulders and I was like, I guess I'll go to work. So I was a reservist for 8 years. And for most of that time, I was a reservist, and I was a New York City public school teacher. And I loved what I did. Shout out to Polo Intermediate School 75 on Staten Island. And then that's when things really changed, though. Going back to, what does God want from you and what do you want? I thought I wanted to be married and have kids. And I thought it was going in that direction. And then God kind of hit me over the head. Long story short, it was like, oh, wait a minute. No, maybe this is what I got to look at. And I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to. It's like, no, I don't want to do this. But then I kind of surrendered, and I said, all right, let me look into this. And then it all kind of just flooded over me. And I was like, wow, no, I think this is what God wants for me to do. And that's going back about 29 years ago now.
So then you discerned, you decided to go into the seminary. Now,
yes.
You went into as a civilian, right? You're now a civilian.
I went in, you know what? It's funny. When I first interviewed for the seminary, I was still in uniform. I still had an obligation for my scholarship. I still had a scholarship obligation. And I told them, I said, I owe this obligation, but I'm happy to, drop it and give myself to the seminary completely when it's done. So for my first 2 years of minor seminary, on 1 week in a month, I was going out to drill down at Fort Dix, and I was doing what I had to do. But then I happily just kind of let it go, and always hoping to come back as a chaplain. And it looked like it was going to go that way, but then it didn't. Long story short, I was 10 years in the Archdiocese of New York, and I approached my Archbishop, and I asked him, I said, I just want to lay this at your feet. Like, I really want to do this. I'm not getting any younger. And God bless him, Cardinal Dolan. He said, yeah, go. I think, yes, do that. Thank you. Do it. And I was like, okay. And that's about 12 years ago now. I've been on the road with the Army for about 12 years.
So how long was your initial stint in the Army?
It was 8 years, but mostly reserve time, reserve and drill time.
Yeah, 8 years of reserve. And then you came on, and now you've been 12 years as
Active.
a chaplain, active duty. What are the benefits? I mean, give me the pitch. If I'm a young man, 25, 30 years old, not a priest yet, and I'm considering the priesthood, what's going to get me, can you go to seminary while in the military? Is that an
Very
option?
good question. So here's the thing. If you're wired for a sense of adventure, like a missionary,
Right.
then military chaplaincy, it fulfills that need. And it's so mysterious because you're a missionary to your own culture in your own language, and yet it's expeditionary because we're all over the world. So you're with one of the recruiters, God bless him, Father Hammond. He's a Navy recruiter. He says, you're joining the greatest young adult group in the world.
Yeah.
And he's right. It's ministry to young adults that have an identity, they're responsible, and they want to serve God and country, and you're going to help fulfill their needs to bring themselves to in service to God and country. So if you have this sense of adventure, and I joined it because I wanted to do the hard things and do the fun stuff. I was a paratrooper in Alaska and in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and jumping out of airplanes with soldiers and ministering to them. I mean, like, that's just, it's like, I love it. That's a fantasy. That's a dream,
Right.
and to do those kinds of things that only the Army could afford me to do. I love parish ministry right now. I'm very much like a parish priest at Fort Bragg. I'm in garrison. I'm not deployable, and I'm helping all these families with religious education and OCIA and baptisms and weddings. It's very much like a parish setting, but I love the Army side of things too, and I hope to get back to that in maybe a different way, shape, or form. I'm getting older. I'm really hoping and praying that God calls me to, to some kind of Army ministry after this, that I can, use this sense of adventure and go into a different direction.
I love that. No, and you know what? You look a lot younger than you say you are, because I know we're very similar in age. And man, you're that the military is keeping you young. So good for you. I have no idea how to look at the new Army physical fitness standards, because I always try to say I'm gonna pass the PT test for the oldest guys. I think for a 40-year-old, right? I think that's where the standards go to. So
yeah, it depends on when you look at it too. They keep moving the goalposts with the standards. It's crazy, but it's a good test. I will say, Dan, do yourself a favor. Just take the test. Like, just take it cold. It's more than the old assessment of push-ups, sit-ups, and a run. It's actually a decent workout. I think you'd enjoy it.
No, I actually do it. I do it at the gym on like once a week. I'll just sit down and I do the old one. So I looked at, when I do the minimum standards. When I was a young 22-year-old, I used to do 82 push-ups, 92 push-ups, and run under 12:15. I think 11. Under 12:15, I had to run. You have to get that 300, and get that patch.
Yeah.
So I was lucky as I was able to run fast. And so that's the hardest part for everybody. Everybody can do that. You can work on the push-ups and the sit-ups, but the run part was hard. But now I try to do that standard, obviously a little bit lower to get to the 60%.
Well, it's gotten a lot more technical. The new test is much more technical. You really
need to deadlift now, right?
Yeah, you have to train. You got to deadlift. You've got to, I would say deadlifting and squats are going to get you where you need to get, because you got to deadlift, you got to plank, and they got rid of the ball throw, which is good, but you're still going to have to run, and you still have to. Now the new standard is you're familiar with hand release push-ups. It's a little different now.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so hand release push-ups, it's just what it sounds like. You go in the front, lean and rest like we used to do, right? Mm-hmm. But now when you go down, you go all the way down to the ground with your chest in contact with the ground, and you raise your hands off the ground. and you extend your hands out and then back, and then you push again, and that's a repetition. So it completely eliminates the idea that did you go all the way down and did you come all the way up? That's basically what it does.
You got to release. Oh my God. I think my face would be hitting the ground a few times. The first time trying. They have the video. So I'm going to have to. So I appreciate that. And you just encouraged a new workout for me. I'm just going to go ahead and do the test cold and see where we're at. And then go improve from there. Because I want to look as good as you look at our age, Father. You're doing a great job.
The older I get, the better I was, Dan.
Yeah, no kidding. All of us, right? We've all got great stories. People always ask, biggest lesson that I had from the military. What's your biggest lesson that you use in life as a priest and as a human being? What's something you learned in the military that you're so glad you went through it and you learned?
God rest him. He's gone to God. Lieutenant Colonel Edward O. Topping. He was my professor of military science at Brooklyn Polytech. And he said something that has stayed with me my whole life. And it is so true. Mediocrity will not be rewarded. Mediocrity will not be rewarded. And if that isn't a paraphrase of Jesus saying, you're either hot or you're cold, you're lukewarm, and I spew you from my mouth. That phrase has always stayed with me, and it challenges me to be, and by the grace of God, I'm a failure and I'm a sinner, but by God's grace, I'm forgiven and I'm on my way. Please God, to where I belong, and that's a life of holiness.
Man, I love that. I love that you brought that up, because a lot of people think, if you're a man of the cloth, you're a priest, you don't sin. One of the things I've learned, working with Father Adrian here at the Newman Center, meeting with lots of priests and interviewing people like yourself, when I hear you say, I'm a sinner, you go to confession. I was talking to Father Adrian the other day. He says, because I came in, our parish is great. We have confession before Mass on Sundays. So if you happen to not be right, you missed it on Saturday, guess what? You can get there. So the other day, I remember going in 5 minutes before Mass, and I was ushering, so I was right there by the confessional. There was no line. I went in, took care of things, came back out, and was able to receive communion in unity. But then he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, I was out for a run, and I saw my colleague, Father Tremblay, was in the confessional, and there was no line. So he stopped his run, ran in, did confession. Then he said, I went to the 11 o'clock Mass, and I felt so much better because I had the sacrament. So here's a question people want to ask, right? Go ahead. Yeah. Tell me what you
I was just going to say, I'm very proud of our schedule here at Fort Bragg. We have confession a half an hour before each of the Masses. So Monday through Friday, we have right at lunchtime from 11:30 till 12:55, right before the 12 o'clock Mass, we have confession. And then before each of the Sunday Masses. And then I myself, I look to go to confession at least once a month. If it's just my routine, if it's a Saturday and there's, it's a routine, that Saturday's kind of the one day that I got to myself to do laundry and reset and then jump back into the tornado on Sunday and go through the week.
Right.
But what kind of a confessor would I be if I don't go to confession? I need to go to confession so that I have something to offer as a confessor.
Right. Right. No, but it's such a, like I said, you're not perfect, right? None of us are perfect. And it's so good to hear you talk about needing the sacrament yourself and as you provide it. And I love what you just said, leading by example. Sometimes you just, people need to see you probably in that confession line.
And it's interesting too, because I'll go to confession, at a parish off post, and soldiers will see me there. And I know that bears witness to them too. They're like, wait, Father's going to confession too. It inspires me when I know my brother priests are, living a good life, sacramental life, going to confession. Nobody's immune to it. That's why we have the sacraments. Well, we're not perfect, but we're being perfected.
That's right. We're not there yet, and we're never going to be there, right? That's what heaven is for, too. That's where we'll be perfect. Amen.
There we go.
And so let's try to get there. Love the mission that you're doing. Let me ask you a question, because again, I want to focus for our leaders. So who we work with, our ideal clients or business leaders. We want to help business leaders grow and scale their business without losing their soul, and we want them to be great leaders. We want to be the kind of leaders that people say, "Man, I gave 20 years to that company, and I'm so glad I did, because my CEO cared about us. We want people. We want to work with leaders who care about people first, and the results will follow. I believe if you take care of people, and I learned that in the military, you take care of people, the results follow. People will run through a wall for a good leader. And so how can we do that? We got to be self-aware, right? Know who we are and be the kind of leader that people want to follow. So one of the questions I like to ask leaders is, tell us about, because our company is called Why Not Leadership. We believe in saying why not. We believe at the end of our life, we don't regret the things we did. We regret the things we didn't do. So I like talking about why not moments. Tell me about a why not moment for you, a time when you said why not to something and you're so glad you did because it has turned into something great. And it could be with regards to what you're currently doing, but tell me a time you said, you know what, why not?
You know what? The first thing that comes to mind, and I try to live this way, and it's going to sound very ordinary, but I'm going to share it with you. The minute that I remember, like I have a prayer routine each day, and I'm sure many of your listeners have a prayer routine, but it's very easy to kind of get blessed past it. Sometimes you get busy and you're like, it's like, ooh, like I should say my rosary, but I'll get to it later. No, wait a minute. Why not? Not right now. That little prompting, that gentle whisper, that little prompting came from the Holy Spirit. Now's the time to do it. Even if it means like, wait, hold on. Let me just stop this podcast. Let me put the dishes down. I'll do the dishes after I say it. Like, as soon as you're prompted to pray, I find I never regret that. And it's like, why not right now? Like, and it's usually, the answer is usually, yeah, no, I should do this right now. But on a bigger scale, why not? I would have to say all right, I'll share it with you. Here we go. I was very driven. Oh gosh, I'll share this with you. I was very driven. I knew I wanted to come back in as a paratrooper and a chaplain. I wanted to jump out of airplanes. I didn't get a chance to do it as a cadet, and I was like, I'm coming back, and I want to be a priest and a paratrooper. So I go to the MEP station for my physical, and I told the recruiter there, I said, hey, I need an airborne physical. And he looks at my paperwork and he goes, "You're recruited, didn't order one." I said, "I need an airborne physical." I knew enough to ask for one. I was like, why not? Like let me set the stage as best I can for this. And the guy argues with me. He's like, you're recruited, didn't order one for you. I was like, I need an airborne physical. All right, Padre, yeah, here. And he signs the form, and I go upstairs and I get it's like an EKG and an eardrum test. So I get it, it gets stamped. Qualified for airborne duty. I wanted that stamp on my paperwork. I go back to my recruiter and he looks at me and goes, "Why'd you get an airborne physical?" I said, "Because I want to be ready for it." He goes, "Why are you open?" He says, "What if you'd failed? It would have messed up your paperwork." I'm like, "Oh, I just took, like, why not?" I took the risk. And it turned out to be the greatest thing for me because I got reassigned because of that stamp. And I wound up having about 8 years of an airborne career with it.
So how many jumps did you have?
Military jumps a little over 65, like
wow.
66, 68. And then I had civilian free fall. I was doing civilian free fall for a little bit just to kind of keep my hands in it when I was in between airborne assignments. But I think my airborne days are over. At 57 years old, I think I'm peasant.
I love it though. Know that, you know what? That's a great why not story. My daughter, I always quote my daughter because she's brilliant. The one that I have at home, both of them are brilliant. But she says, she knows, part of a lot of the work that I do as a coach and as a consultant, I'm dealing with potential clients all the time. And I've been in sales my entire career after the military, and I think I was in sales in the military. When you're leading troops in the military, you're in sales. But she says, she has a phrase. She says, "Dad, you're already at no. If you don't ask, you're at no." Right?
Very good. Oh wow, that's such a wise statement.
She says, "You're already at no. So if you don't ask for the airborne physical, you're at no. They're going to say no. But you asked, and you kept pushing, and then you got to a yes."
I knew what you knew as a veteran. The best advocate for anything you want to do in the military is yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody's advocating for you. Nobody cares what you want to do with it. So, and I knew it was a healthy thing too, because I knew not every priest out there even wants to jump out of an airplane, which is how I wound up with the assignment, because they were going to send a priest who didn't want it. And they're like, "Hey, this Pomposello guy asked for an airborne physical. Send him." And it worked.
Yeah, it's being, it's being open to it and asking for it, right? So yeah, you already at no, you got to the yes, and then you got an airborne assignment, got to do over 60 jumps. I did my my airborne training jumps, and then I did a few in Ranger School, and that was it. And so that is something I'm envious of your ability to have done 60 jumps.
That's big time that
when
you
that
jumped
chute
in Ranger
opens,
School. Yeah,
when that chute opens and that peaceful feeling. Oh my gosh, I'll always remember it. And you got to do it 60, 70 times, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations and good job persisting. I wanted to get to that why not story. That's a great why not story because it led to, like you said, how many years were you in airborne units?
8 years. I did 8 years with airborne units. I did. Well, let me see. I was on status 5 of those years. I was on jump status. I was jumping, like I was getting out the door, and because it got me to all the subsequent stuff. See, now here's the thing: I did it to become a leader in the Army in a way that I could lead as a priest and as a chaplain. I'm not going to be a trigger puller. I'm not going to kick down doors, but I can become a jump master. I can become a pathfinder. I can land helicopters. I can push troops out the door safely, and I can be a force multiplier to all these leaders. As soon as I finished jump master school, all these airborne leaders, all these battalion commanders, that they take notice of the chaplains. Like your chaplain's a jump master. Hey, chaplain, anytime you want to jump my lines, you can come and help me out. And that gave me access. That gave me access to ministry. Hands down, no questions asked. Padre, whatever you want to do with my troops, that's great. Thanks for being the DZSO and taking care of jump master duties for my guys.
Man, that is fantastic, and how fun would that have been? I remember. So you'll laugh at this. I remember. So in Ranger School, it was a bunch. I went in with a bunch of cadets, but it's everybody, right? Everybody's together. And I had gone through airborne school, but I hadn't jumped since airborne school. Now we're at Ranger School, and we're gonna jump. And at airborne school, you were a jump master. They check everything. They come around. In Ranger School, they put on your chutes, and then me and my buddy look at each other. Wait, and we're checking each other. Like, wait a minute, let's make sure we put this thing on right, because you're expected to know how to do it. You've been to airborne school already. That was a scary time, but how much more reassuring it would be to have a priest jumping out with us, not just giving us a quick sermon before we go, but actually getting in there with us and shuffling to the door with us and jumping out.
And that goes all the way back to, it's a page right out of Pope Francis, smell the shepherd smelling like the sheep, and they knew it. They, like all of my troopers, they knew it's like, this chaplain doesn't have to be out here jumping with us doing this stuff, but he's here because he wants to be with us. And that goes a long way. And I loved it. It was great. It was a great time in the Army.
Yeah, I love these stories. Tell me about this. I'm sure you've got some of these stories. Somebody you recruited that they came in to give, but maybe after they were done, they said, you know what, I got a lot more than I gave. Got a lot more back.
You know what? I don't
where they're so thankful that you pushed them there and they came back.
I'm just starting to see the fruits of my own labor. So what you're asking is, are there guys that I've recruited, seminarians and priests that I've recruited that are coming into the Army? And it's a long ask. Like, think this one through. If you're a seminarian, you got to finish seminary, which may be anywhere between 5 and 7 years. Right. Then you need 3 years in the parish before you can even enter into the Army. So I haven't really had the experience, like the personal experience of guys that I've personally recruited. Some priests are just getting on active duty now.
Nice.
But so I haven't had that experience yet.
Yeah. How many years did you spend recruiting?
Just 2
years recruiting. Is that a typical assignment for recruiters?
It is. It's 2 to 3. 2 to 3, and then what usually a lot of guys wind up promoting out of the job, because typically you want a senior captain chaplain. Right. Because he's been around the block. He's got stories he can tell. He knows the Army. He knows the culture, and he can sell the Army as a recruiter. So you take a senior captain, right? A senior captain as a recruiter. But then as soon as he makes major, he usually gets, it's like, wait, we got to pull him out of that job and give him a brigade. And that's what happened to me. As soon as I made major, I was gone in 6 months.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So 2 years. Best recruiting story from your 2 years as a recruiter.
The best recruiting story I had was when. All right, I'll share this one. Here we go. I wanted to see this bishop. I wanted to see him, and I'm all over the map. Like I'm traveling and doing this and doing that, and I talked to. I'm not going to get too specific here, but I talked to the bishop's secretary. Oh, he's not going to be in town that week. He's going to be in such and such a city. I'm going to be in that city. Oh, I can meet him there. I had no plans on being in that city, but I did as soon as she told me where he was.
Right.
So I moved my schedule around to meet him in the city, and it bore fruit. It was great. But that's where you gotta like. There's one of those other stories. It's like like. Why not now? Like, why not now? Like, let's get on this plane. Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna be there. I'm like,
why not now? Why not there? Right? Yeah, you know what? That's fantastic.
And I love it. It worked out.
And I love and it bore fruit. And what's funny is I'm listening to you here, and recruiting really is sales, right? It is literally
100%.
You've got a product, and the product is the service, and you've got a prospect that you've got to warm up, and you've got to get them to find out if it's a fit or not. Right. And then get them there. Ever see somebody that thought they were a fit, and when you talk to them, how did you discern whether they were a fit or not? Maybe somebody that disappointed that you said maybe, hey, you know what, this probably isn't for you.
What I try to do is I try to slow roll the process a little bit for them to see it for themselves. That's always the best. Like we start talking about it, and it's like, well, all right, fill this out, get back to me, and then. I hope that they see their own, like, if they're either their heart's not in it, or they're in it for the wrong reason, or it was a heartbreak. Foreign-born priests that just didn't have the facility with the language,
right?
And they're so motivated, and they want to serve. They love this country. They want to serve, and I'm like, you might just, hey, keep doing this parish ministry. And I would just encourage them, keep working on the language, keep learning. You should not be listening. You should not be listening to the radio or watching movies in your native language. You need to be doing everything in English. Get it in your ear so that you can come and it is hard to that's a heartbreak. That was always a heartbreak.
Those are tough. I can imagine, because especially if they're motivated and they want it's like, can I take your motivation and put it in? Yeah, no, that's so important. So let's give some advice to our business leaders. So we're working with business leaders. What advice do you have to someone who wants to make sure, as they're growing, they're growing a business? There's so many temptations out there. There's shortcuts. There's things we can do. There's times that we're asked to make decisions that where the right thing, I always say this, and I try to live it, is the right thing is the right thing, even if nobody's doing it, and the wrong thing is the wrong thing, even if everybody else is doing it. So what advice do you have from your experience for somebody who wants to grow? You've had quotas to meet, so you got to get to that quota, but also maintain your integrity as a business leader. What are your thoughts on that for business leaders?
You can't compromise. Yeah, don't compromise your integrity for whatever your goals may be. And I would say my advice is look for opportunities of earned media. You want your business to grow? Look to make opportunities for earned media. Like a podcast like this. I mean, when you earn media, what we know from the business is that earned media, it's not a paid spot. It's you have a story to tell. You have something to offer to somebody. There's producers out there of network television, of cable television, big nationwide podcasts. They're looking for good programming, and you want to be able to market yourself to say, hey, I've got a product. I have a product. I have a service. I have something that your listeners would love to hear about. And if you can earn media, that's how you're going to grow. And you're doing it with complete integrity, and yet, getting your name out there.
So I love that term, earned media. So how do you earn media?
How do you earn media? You gotta be a pit bull. You just gotta get out there and assert yourself, but you also have to look for opportunities. We were very fortunate. My team and I had an opportunity. Long story short, I ran into a producer from a major cable network, and I was at dinner with a bunch of priests. We started chatting, and it's like, hey, you need to get me on. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. It's like, no, you need to get me on. And I persisted, and I wrote letters, and I sent a gift to the office, and we got there.
Nice. Well, are you going to tell us what was the show? How did that media come out?
All right, no, it came out great. It was really a great show. I was on Fox and Friends on a
Nice.
Sunday, and it just worked. It worked, and it still bears fruit. You know, it's interesting. It still bears fruit for people who search for Catholic chaplaincy and all of that. It's still out there.
I saw it.
good,
I
but
actually in my
okay.
research, I did see the clip, so I did.
That
see
was
you on
all
Fox
just
and Friends.
earned media. It was all, it was really a blessing because I didn't want to take no for an answer. It's like, wait, this is a great thing. And it wasn't for me. It was for the mission. And that's what all your business leaders have to, it's not for you to get camera ready and put yourself out there. You've got a product to sell. You got to get it out there. You got to get it out there. You have something that's going to benefit other people. And I just believe in this mission in particular, this recruiting mission. I mean, I'm not even a recruiter anymore, but I still believe in it. And I still have a passion for it, which is why I'm happy to come and talk about it. And if any of your listeners, they want to get in touch with me, fr.uncle.sam on Instagram. I still monitor that, and I can put you in the right direction of the guys that can actually action your desires in becoming a part of the Army as a chaplain.
fr.uncle.sam on Instagram. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. I also noticed in your email you include the word Jumpmaster. So
yeah, fr.jumpmaster. So I try, you know what it is? I try to use a different functional email for each assignment. So this assignment, I'll do that. Next assignment, I'll change it up because then I can tell where my email's coming from.
Oh, now yeah, it's funny. Like people say, Dan, do you go by Dan? And I said, yeah, very few people call me Daniel, but I know that who they are. When they call me Daniel, I know that they're from high school or before.
Yeah.
And if they call me Danny, they're family.
Yeah, because for what it's worth, I was Priest Recruiter East at Gmail when I was recruiting. I stopped recruiting. I went to Father Jumpmaster. The next assignment, I'm going to be something else.
Nice. I love that. Tell us, for leaders who are listening, who feel called to something bigger, but they're hesitant because it disrupts their comfort. What's the question they should be asking themselves?
Yeah, it's out of your comfort zone. Well, all right, very good. Let's discern. Are you out of your comfort zone? Is it a moral question or is it a courage question? Right? I mean, are you you should be out of your comfort zone if you're trying to promote your business in ways that are just not becoming of a good Catholic man, right?
Right.
You're going to succumb if you want to start subscribing to the old adage that sex sells. Is this how you really want to portray? Is this what you want to do for your company? So is that what's out of your comfort zone? Or are you out of your comfort zone because maybe you're uncertain, you don't have the confidence to maybe get in front of a camera or approach this group of people for this kind of a deal that you want to collaborate with? So I think it's important to discern, why are you out of your comfort zone? Is it a moral question? If it is, then good on you. That's a tender conscience that says, no, I'm not starting an OnlyFans for my business.
Right.
It's like, that's not,
I'm not going to make all my female staff start OnlyFans accounts, right?
Yeah, it's like, no, you should be out of your comfort zone for that. So Is it a moral question? Yes or no? And if it's not a moral question, maybe it's a thing of confidence. And then I pray daily to Our Lady, to the Blessed Mother, under the title of Our Lady of Confidence. Think of the confidence of the Blessed Mother. The Blessed Mother was the first Christian of all Christians. She didn't have Peter or Andrew. She didn't have the disciples. She didn't have, scripture, the fathers of the church. She didn't have anything to go by. She was completely confident in her faith in the Holy Spirit to say yes to Jesus. So pray to the Blessed Mother for confidence in good things that are, if it's a good thing and it's just a question of courage and confidence, pray and God will give it to you.
Oh man, that is a great answer. I'm going to, Father, we're going to have you back because I've got way more questions than I got answers to. And we're already at almost an hour.
I got to come out to Duketown. We got to do this. I got to ask you a Duketown question. You got time for a Duketown question?
Yeah, you bet. Of course.
All right. So I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad and even more so Better Call Saul. They're great. So are any of those restaurants that come up in the show, are any of them worth visiting?
I got to tell you, there's a lot of restaurants that come up. So the scene with the attorney at that this actually happens. at the doghouse. The doghouse, best chili dog you'll ever have.
Are they good? Okay.
Oh, I've been going to the doghouse since I was in middle school, so we used to, we'd hang out in the summer with our friends, and we'd save our pennies, and we'd go skateboarding or whatever, and then we'd go to the doghouse and have lunch, and then we'd go continue our summer. So doghouse is definitely a good one. All of them are good.
How's Gus's chicken place? The place that's the Twisters. How's Twisters?
Twisters is amazing burritos.
Okay.
Amazing burritos. So you'll love Twisters. Yeah, no, all of them. I'm trying to think of the Spanish restaurant, and I'm going to kick myself. It'll come to me, but you know what we need to do is get you to Albuquerque is what we need to do.
Yeah, we got to do that. We're going out for hot dogs.
We're going out for hot dogs. I'll make dinner for you at the house, and then we'll just feed you. You'll have to do some extra physical fitness when you get back, but that's okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Here, I'm going to ask you the one question, Father. It's been great to have you on. It's been great to share your leadership, to share your story, to feel your energy. I can feel it coming through the screen. I know our listeners are going to feel it. Guys, if you like the show, if you learned something today from Father Peter Pomposello, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment. If you leave a question, I'll make sure to get a hold of him. If it's not a question for me, I'll make sure and get a hold of him and get you an answer. But we want you to spread the word about the Lead Different podcast. And since we're Why Not Leadership, we're going to ask one final question. Father, what do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much, Father Peter. Thank you for being on. Listeners, this is a great interview. If you're just catching the tail end of it, go back to the beginning and enjoy the rest of it. Father Peter brought the heat today. We had a great conversation. So we'll see you guys next week on the Lead Different podcast.
Thanks, Dan.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.